You say fungicide, I say fungicide. That's why we get along, I guess.
That's why we get along. Well, let's not start the show with any unnecessary assumptions here this morning. But we have a lot coming up here.
We get along fairly well. But on the note of what Stuart Varney was talking about, Mitt Romney says the attacks on his record at private equity firm Bain Capital are an attack on free enterprise. How does Romney defend himself against the attacks of not only the door that was opened by some GOP competitor, but also what will surely be attacks from President Obama? Former Congressional Budget Office Director Douglas Holtz-Aiken is with us. He helped run John McCain's campaign in 2008. We will ask him how Romney can possibly defend his record at Bain Capital.
All right, first, though, you probably know by now that Romney won big last night in New Hampshire in the primary, so he heads to South Carolina with 2 wins in his pocket. But you look bigger picture at all this. What could a President Romney do that President Obama has not done to bring both parties together in Washington? We have the former Republican Senator Bob Bennett of Utah, currently Aaron Fox, senior policy advisor, and the former Democratic Senator Blanche Lincoln of Arkansas, both with us right now. Senator Lincoln, I'm actually going to start with you because we always, in the Financial Network, we always talk about this kind of 90s era phrase of gridlock is good. And we all thought maybe after 2010 in the midterms, gridlock was going to be good. Now a lot of people are saying it's not, that we need more cooperation. Is that, at least, as we talk about Romney, a fair premise to start with? We need more cooperation.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so proud to be on this program with an incredible statesman like Bob Bennett, because Bob and I worked together on a lot of things. He worked with anybody that was willing to work hard to get results. And that's what we need more of. And you see in Washington, I think, unfortunately, our government is not creating, it's not creating a culture of business confidence. What it's creating, which I heard from some business folks yesterday, is a culture of policy turmoil. So the uncertainty itself is what's creating our business industries the inability to really invest in themselves and grow the jobs that we need to have in this country to put our economy back on track.
So to you, Senator Bennett, and we do agree you're a fine statesman, but I'll also say up front you're a Romney supporter, so I'm not going to ask you if Romney can be the guy that brings this together. But how? How, you know, because we're in this strange campaign now where he's being attacked from the left by supposedly more conservative members of his own party as they head down to South Carolina after the big win in New Hampshire. But at the end of the day, he's a guy who governed in Massachusetts as a quote-unquote moderate. Is he the guy who really brings things together, gets things done in Washington? How does he do it?
Well, first, let me thank Blanche for her kind words and say the country would be better off if she were still there. The 2 examples I look at are, number 1, Massachusetts, which you've mentioned, where he was a Republican governor with an absolute veto-powered legislature. They could override his veto, and did regularly, on just about everything that they wanted to, and yet he accomplished a great deal. And I've had Democrats in Massachusetts grudgingly admit to me, you know, we were not Romney fans, but...
Right.
And then they would fill in the blank in whatever their area of expertise was. So he has had a training in that I think no other candidate has. The other experience that I watched firsthand was what he did with the Olympics. Now, you say, oh, everybody loves the Olympics. That was all peace and glory, march to the finish line. The Olympics were in real trouble, not only in the United States, but more in Europe. The International Olympic Committee was riddled with corruption and factions and bitterness, and Mitt Romney stepped into that absolutely cold, with no experience. And by the end, he had the cooperation of the International Olympic Committee to a degree that no American Olympic head has ever had. And that, again, was a demonstration of the fact that he has the capacity to bring people together and make people work together for a common goal, even though they start out in different positions initially.
Sure, that's back in 2002 in Salt Lake. And all these things that Senator Bennett mentions, just Senator Lincoln, are things that potentially could help Governor Romney in the general election. Some of the things he mentioned, by the way, could hurt him in the primary before. But he's in a commanding position now. What does President Obama have to do to head that off? I mean, some of it maybe is out of his control. I don't know in the economic numbers. But if you're President Obama right now and you're assuming you're going to run against Mitt Romney, what do you do to head it off in terms of the economy, do you think?
Well, I think, first of all, you know, to avoid the kind of, as I called it, policy turmoil, we need some leadership that's going to say, we've got to move this ball down the field. We've got to come together and work through some of these issues and get some of these things done. Sensible regulations is something that I've been barking up the tree about for quite some time now, and I think it's incredibly important to give businesses the confidence of knowing that there's some certainty, both not only in the fact that we're going to be creating sensible regulation, we're not going to eliminate regulations, but more importantly, what we're going to do is to have a process where we get regulations into place that have been properly vetted, that have got the kind of cost-benefit analysis that shows us that they are going to be beneficial in all the retrospects of what they need to be beneficial to us in, not just in terms of safety and environment, but also in job creation,
right,
and all of those things to ensure that we're getting that bang for that buck. And that takes real leadership to be able to say, we need a process in place that's going to work, and we need to make sure that businesses have a say in what's going on and how these regs are going to be developed. And I think that's one important place. But without a doubt, the leadership of saying, we've got to move the ball down the field. Infrastructure investment is a great place, and you don't see as much of that, in my opinion, as I think we should, in terms of you know, where we can spend money that's going to make a difference in creating jobs and helping businesses as contractors and others to be able to really grow their businesses. So I think there's great opportunity there, but it's going to take people standing up and saying, we're willing to work with everybody to get these results. And so, you know, it does seem like it's Mitt Romney's to lose, and you know, for either one of whoever the two candidates are, obviously President Obama, but whoever happens to be the Republican, they're going to have to be able to really, I think, download to the American people what policies they're going to put into place that are going to create jobs,
yes,
and how they're going to make that happen.
So, as you say, President Obama could push for more spending. You brought up infrastructure spending, and you think that's something that could still sell. I would think Senator Mitt Romney's going to push back and say, no, we have to make government smaller. Who is he, though? Is he essentially, at the end of the day, I mean, he gets criticized in the primary saying, oh, you're a Massachusetts moderate, and that's supposedly, I guess there's something wrong with that. Is that what he is, though? Is he a moderate, or is he a real small government guy? He's certainly not a Tea Party guy, right?
No, well, I've known Mitt for a number of years. And fundamentally, Mitt is a problem solver. He likes to dig into the details. He likes to wallow in the data and come up with the focus that needs to be done. And as a consequence, he does not come across as your typical politician who fits into one slot or another. And a lot of people are saying, oh, we want somebody who is ideologically pure. And Mitt just instinctively says, let's solve the problem,
right,
regardless of what the ideology might be. And that indeed has been offensive to some Republicans that like purity. But, you know, I go back to the days of Everett Dirksen. I'm old enough to remember when he was really the master of the Senate, even though that title was given to Lyndon Johnson. The two of them were a partnership, and Johnson could not have done what he did without Dirksen.
Right.
And Dirksen was as solid a Republican as you could find, but he was also one who wanted to solve problems. And I remember his great one-liner. People said, well, you're not principled enough. And Dirksen said, I'm a man of solid principles. And one of my principles is flexibility.
There you go. That is pretty good.
He got things done, and Mitt can get things done.
You talk about statesmen and women in the Senate. There's a couple of them there that certainly acted that way and did here this morning. Not your typical screaming and yelling cable news debate by any means. Senator Bennett and Senator Lincoln, it was great to talk to both of you, and thanks very much for coming on.